Karen and I, we have our 5 steps to successful real estate investing, and we're passionate about educating others and sharing and learning together. So we have this investor education. We also do what's called an investor consultation, and this is just, we sit down with you for an hour and ask you several silly questions, and at the end we've got, here's what we think your goals, here's our understanding of your real estate investing goals, and here's a plan to achieve them. We'll give you this nice pretty document, and several of those steps will help you with. But you can just take that and run. It's kind of our give out there. Obviously, Karen and I would love to continue to help you all the way to purchasing that class, but there's definitely, you know, no tie to that. Wow, the bathroom. There's a bathroom remodel. That's good. So there's not a bathroom on this floor, so you guys know. So hopefully no one needs to use the restroom. There is other options, but just, you know. And then we also have an investor analysis sheet. We're going to go through that today. We also do real estate reviews as well. So if you already have a property, primary or a rental property, we can help you run through that as well.
So where's the potty? Please.
Second floor.
No, I'm good for now.
I have to.
If you have to have admission. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not like a
Okay,
call
so
time.
I'm officially going to try to be what I call a cat pee lady. People need to know, people are often confused on how you make money in real estate. There's really 4 ways. And I was like, how do we help people remember this? And I came up with cat pee. So the 4 ways of making money, we'll talk about more as we get into analyzing our property. I also like to share, this is the appreciation in Denver. If you're not familiar with that, this is, and we do have updated data, I think, since last month. So this is kind of shows trends since 2004. So when we're talking about making money on the appreciation side, that's a lot in Colorado, how you make your money.
Right.
Other places like Kansas, you're not doing a lot of appreciating, but your cash flow is pretty good when you're talking long term or short term. But when you're talking flips, that's a good thing, right? Because you could potentially make even more than you thought as appreciation goes up. But we have these graphs available for us. So if you're thinking, I want to do a flip in my hometown in Tennessee, I probably have a chart I can show you, just so you can see kind of the risk of what, you know, if I buy this property. And, you know, if I look at Arizona's chart, Phoenix, it's like red, you know, green, red, it's up and down, right? So higher risk when you're talking about a flip, because the market can turn drastically there. Questions? I feel like I'm just like throwing stuff.
What do I search to find the Facebook group?
Oh, Colorado Real Estate Investing 101. Or I can put it back up too.
And we'll send you, if you put your email
Oh, yeah,
down,
yeah.
we'll send you.
We have this sign-up sheet that you can, if you want any of those things I talked about, you can put that on. Okay, so let's get to our property. So this is a virtual field trip. So Karen, Derek, and I attended this house last week. This is really great noise. I mean, it's like construction. We're talking construction, right? It's perfect.
They waited until you started talking too.
I know.
So you may want to scoot up closer. I'll try to talk louder. This is the property that we found. They actually are listing this in their listing details as a good flip opportunity. So it's like perfect. Let's look at it. Let's analyze it. Okay, so when you're doing a flip, the first thing you want to know is what is the ARV, after repair value, after rehab value, whatever you want to call it. And so how you do that is you go in and we would pull comps for you on other flipped homes in the area that are similar. So if you guys, this is what we would provide to our clients, and this, you just scan this QR code, and if you guys want to do it, you can look at all these in detail on your phone, so you can of see what that app looks like. But there are quite a few good options for comps. That's not always the case, but for this one, there are some good numbers to look at. I actually looked with a client at this one. Could not believe it sold that price. But so there's really some good, strong numbers to suggest. All of these are similar size. Some of them don't have a walkout on them. They're the more lower ones, like this one doesn't have a walkout. You can see all those details if you scroll from side to side with the pictures. So we're just gonna say, for sake of this experiment here, or this walkthrough together, we're gonna just use the number 850 because it feels decent. Some of these two aren't completely updated; they're kind of partially updated. But you can always pick whatever you want. And then the next thing you need to know is, what are the repair remodel costs if I'm going to flip it? Because you know, in the video we were talking about, if this is a rental, if you're holding it as a rental, do not do this. But if you're flipping it, you do this. So here's some of the major things that, these are kind of the must-haves that we saw. And then, Derek, if you want to come up, this is kind of your part here. But these are the kind of approximate costs. Obviously, you have to do a formal review. But just so you kind of know, I know that Hayden, you're interested in understanding costs. So I know you guys didn't get to watch the whole video, unfortunately, due to our construction site here. But I don't know if you want to kind of walk through some of these things.
Do you guys have any, there's certain things in the house that you had questions about for value or what it would cost to do? Right, yeah. So some of the major things in there, obviously, like the windows, they're going to cost between probably $40,000 and $50,000 on that house. I didn't count the amount of windows, but if you just want to figure, they're usually about $2,000 a piece, window and install. You can get cheaper. That's why there's such a variance in price, because you can really get cheap on the houses. And I've worked on those houses after people flipped them and then people bought them, and then they spend a bunch of money doing a bunch more updating to it because there's a lot of shoddy work done. I would recommend highly not going super cheap on it. Obviously you're there to make money, but if the numbers don't make sense in the beginning, then it's just not a good deal.
Yeah, and I would say, just from helping people buy, realtors are getting better at identifying crappy jobs. Advice for clients on that. And as we get into finance or holding costs in a second, like every day costs you significant money to flip a house. And if you're in a scenario where the market shifts a little bit, and it's clearly did bad construction work, you're gonna lose. You're not gonna make any money, but you're gonna actually lose money. So.
Yeah, people get really caught up in the pennies, the penny pinching. And the reality is, the end goal, think about if you walked into a house that you were gonna buy, you put yourself down the street and say, okay, I walked in, I saw this and this, what do I think? Like she said, it's gonna cost you way more money, than saving $1,000 here or $500 here or whatever it is. And in the end, when you're holding, you have to pay more fees on two houses. If you own another one, the interest, I guess they're gonna lower a little bit, but that's not always the case. Who knows?
So as someone who's completely new to, potentially flipping these homes, how do I actually go through a home and get even a ballpark up front? And do I find someone like you? And
I would always say
BFF
find some good friends who know a good general contractor with one. I'm happy to walk through. I typically don't do it for free, obviously, because it's quite a bit of time for me to do it. But once again, that can really save you the headache of being like, oh, I thought it was only going to cost me $40,000 to flip this house, and then $80,000 later, you're wondering how the heck you're going to get out.
But I would recommend investing in that money. After you go through your few houses with them, you'll be able to kind of
have
learn
an idea
it
of the
over.
ballparks.
Yeah, you get it over time. But I think initially that's probably a big risk that you first assume that they know what the costs are. They bring some construction construction guy to the job that says they can do it for this, and then they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Or their number changes.
Yeah, and then it's like twice
Or
as
they
much.
do half the work in the scale. But I mean, she's gonna be the most important because she's gonna save you a ton of time by just looking at the house and like the comps, right? You'll be able to tell right away. If this house is selling for $650, and let's say conservatively we can get 8 for it, and it's gonna cost on the low side, 100,000, maybe 125,000. That might be a little tight for most people. A lot of new people get in and they don't think about the extra costs or the unforeseen stuff. Because you have to start getting inspections done. And if someone sees something that they don't like,
Yeah.
If you see the crack in the foundation, do you care about it? Do you fix it?
it just depends. Typically you want to get a structural engineer in there to give you a really good idea of like, okay, what else? Because sometimes there's fractures, fracture lines that will, cracks that don't mean anything. It's just, some sediment that happened maybe on the outside, or maybe it's just facial. Sometimes you see mud on the outside of foundations and it's not actually the foundation itself. So
What about that garage?
the garage, yeah, but that's a floating slab in there, so that has
Right.
nothing to actually do with the foundation.
Right.
So that's nice. And typically, same thing in the basement. Is that slab in the basement? If that's cracked or pushed, that has nothing to do with the actual foundation. Those are usually most of the time floating slabs. So those can be easily, I shouldn't say easily, but those can be recognized.
Yeah, and we would, if you were working with us, we would pull in those inspectors, and like I have some inspectors that are structural engineers too, so
Yeah.
if I see indications, then I'll bring that, I'll recommend that you hire that inspector when you're under contract.
How much we're talking for someone like that to come on?
The structural engineer, there's different types, like if you just want them to come and say yay or nay, I've got someone that you can do it for around 300.
Yeah.
They'll give you a fancy report. If you want a fancy report, you're looking at 600-ish for a structural engineer.
So you probably wouldn't want to go to 10 homes and do this, 10 times. In 10
No,
different
but there's
homes. You
signs
wanna-
you look. So Karen and I see
Trained
inspection reports. So your general inspectors who you hire first, and they actually will be giving you indications of whether they think they're structural. But Karen and I have seen enough that we can also, we're obviously not, we're realtors, we're not, but we've seen enough inspection reports we can say, you know what, this floor does not feel level, these cracks are too big.
You deal with it
This
one
is
time
it.
and you learn quick.
You learn quick, yeah. So we have that experience to let you know, like, this one's super risky, you better plan $100,000 in there at least for a structural repair. Like, we can see some of those things. And then if it doesn't need it, great, you have $100,000 more in your pocket if you plan for that.
But you have to know, okay, is this likely or not likely?
Correct,
It
yeah.
sounds like it just takes some reps going in, doing it, going with someone like Derek
Yes.
or, buddy who just knows about this stuff and just starting to get that understanding of, okay, here's the ballpark. Being able to do that.
Correct.
And it doesn't mean it's off limits, right? It just
Yeah.
means, okay, can we get the price down low enough where it makes sense that, this is gonna cost us $40,000, $50,000, $100,000 to fix. Can we make it work?
And sometimes those are your best deals because people are afraid of them.
People won't touch structural easily.
But if you make those steps, we go in and then Derek comes in and then you hire a structural engineer, then you have an estimate, you know exactly what you're dealing with, you make an offer to cover that, you get the deal, have the work done.
Yeah, there's a house in Lakewood that was beautiful, kind of just, I guess you call it like New Mexico style, stucco, and it's just a lot of just kind of cool add-ons and stuff. But that being said, the guy who owned it was very old and never really did any updating to it. So, very interesting setup. Indoor pool, outdoor pool. Nobody ever did anything to the indoor pool, so it was just literally like a moss swamp. Like, it's horrible. But that house, they were trying to get $950,000 for it. I think it was in a fund, trust fund or something like that. So
gotta make sure you got the work or you're in trouble. So you gotta make sure you have those trusted relationships to get that work done.
Build your team. You're doing the first step though by being here.
I noticed the window says $35,000 to $50,000.
Yeah.
Looks like that's the biggest slide. So when you're going to build a property, right? How do you determine the lifespan? Like, for example, if you're in a property, if you want to keep it for like, let's say 5-10 years, right?
Yeah.
How do you know this window is going to last for 5 years versus this needs, like, obviously if it's super bad, right? Like, it's a big expense. And it's hard to estimate, especially if you're trying to hold the house for like 3-4 years. You know the market.
Yeah, so this is for the flip. This is what we're recommending doing for the flip. So you're only for this example, we're only saying you're going to keep it as long as you get the construction done and sell it.
Got it.
And so we're building that number in because we think that value is going to be key into getting it resold at the value that we want.
Okay, so if you put in 50,000 for the windows in the flip, that will increase your value when you kind of go to because that's a big chunk of your profit.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, their original windows, and for this value of a home, this price point in a home, I think it's really important that they have updated windows. It's going to be, you know, I think that taking a ton of buyers and multiple flips and getting their perspective, they get really ticked off when everything looks beautiful and then they pull back and they see the windows.
Yep.
When you think about it, if you're buying an $850,000 home, you don't want to touch anything in there for at least 15 years. You know, if you even own it for that long, but you're buying this and you're not thinking about how to spend any money. So windows are going to be definitely something. And their real estate
They're a
agent
deal
is going to
breaker,
say something about it too.
It'll be a deal breaker in this price point. In this but here's some of the other things that we would say if you're going to flip it. Must-haves done. I'm sure there's some other things that we're not on here, but just we wanted to kind of give you an understanding. So we're going to use these numbers in our example. And then we also talked about, you know, the cost. If you keep it, if you fix it up and rent it, are you going to do the same updates?
Nope.
Why is that? Because tenants don't care about a lot of stuff. We mainly have, you know, the majority of our clients, we help them buy properties to long-term rents, and or they have a property that they're going to turn into a rental, and it's amazing the things that people come and say, I need to do this before I rent it, and they're completely wrong, because a tenant looks at it totally different than someone who owns the home. So we usually bring our property managers, those folks who are coming next month, and they'll help you understand what you can and can't do. So here's the things that we think. The paint, so dark and dreary in there, lighten it up with paint. The flooring, updated lighting. You don't want big old chandeliers for your tenants. Like, that's just asking for trouble. The egress window. This was on the last one too. Huge. What does that do? Gives you another bedroom.
Makes it
It's a formal
Like this
bedroom. That other bedroom is not really a bedroom. Now, could you get away with it on a rental? Possibly, because there's not a lot of difference between 4 or 5. You're not going to have 5 tenants. It's like you're going to have, you know, a couple with other people living with them, a few people. So that was one you could probably take off here. AC though this one had a swamp cooler. But
Colorado's
not
a
a
little.
lot of people like swamp coolers. They're just not.
I drove
I've
out here
had-
from Atlanta almost 20 years ago, and we had no AC in the damn place, and I was shocked.
Yes. So the swamp cooler is most buyers. I've had one buyer who's like, I'd like to buy a home with a swamp cooler. Out of all the buyers I've had, and they wanted it because it was like nice and humid. It was like a humid or something. But everyone else is like, oh, you know, they don't even know what it is, or they read about it and they're like, that sounds like a lot of work. And we do need AC because how many days over 90? I saw on the news we've had like 90
worse.
days over
It's
90.
getting worse.
Right? So definitely an AC could be a deal breaker for a tenant, and that means lower rent. Water heater, so you don't have to go and deal with that at midnight.
But no windows.
Why is that?
Well, I mean, it's
Renters don't care. They are not going to look at your windows, and guess what? You are not paying the utilities either.
I guess if they're really bad, then you might have to.
If they don't work,
then
you have
yes,
to.
Do
function.
like one or two, you know, you don't have to do all of them.
Yeah.
Right, and going back to like what you said, right? If this is something you're gonna hold for maybe 7 to 10 years, 15 years, you just, you know, maybe I'll do this room. Obviously, you're gonna get the best deal if you do it all at once, right? But you know, rentals do maybe 1 bedroom or 2 bedrooms this year, and then 2 bedrooms another year, or whatever it is. And you know, you can break them out.
I think you brought in a good point, because every 5 years, styling changes, right? Which includes paint costs, flooring is like, it was now it's lighting, right? So I'm just, and then again, if you have like, let's say 1 year tenant, right? And if for some reason you churn, right? And all those beautiful wall paintings that have done probably a fresh coat of paint, right? So how do you kind of run a lean rental business, right? Because every 5 years you have this industry change, which will cost all of these things, right? And then every 1 year there's maintenance cost, right?
So when we get into the spreadsheet on that, you build that in. You build a repair and maintenance, and if your number can't hit cash flow with that repair and maintenance in there, then it's not a good investment, right? So you build that in. Yeah, if you put, I have some newbies that are like, I don't care about the repairs and maintenance. I'm like, you need to care
That'll bite ya.
it's just a matter of time before you. Okay, so how do you finance a flip? Is it the same? And so there's a few ways. You can have a hard money lender who gives you the, and we'll walk through an example of that, but that's a, you can list it as like a cash offer when you're buying it, so you have some gains there on what you offer. But you're paying a really high interest rate on that, probably 10 to 11%. You got renovation loans. You could also do a HELOC and then refinance it. So if you've got a primary home already, or you have another rental that you can pull a HELOC. I know Belco's got a 6.99%. You could pull your HELOC, buy the property, if you have some cash long, and then just refinance it once it's done.
Is it a fixed HELOC? Or is that just...
That's a fix that they have right now, yeah. Okay, so this is...
Hi, my name is Nicole Ruth, and I've been a mortgage lender for, I don't even know, 23 years. And I have 24 investments of my own. And I wanted to chat with you for just a second because I adore Amy and Karen and the education that they're bringing to you tonight. I just wanted to express my side of the house, which I'm a retail lender and I work with a lot of people looking to purchase an investment home. And when you're looking at fix and flipping it, a lot of people think that they can't go with a traditional lender. They think that they have to go hard money. And hard money, I even use hard money. It is a great solution when the opportunity presents that it's typically your only option because the interest rates can be a little higher. I want to talk to you about a couple of traditional financing options for your path of either fix and flip or fix and hold. And I only have enough time to share just a few, but know that there are more options in addition to this. Sometimes creativity is your biggest option. All right, let's go through a few. The first one is an FHA loan. Now, I will say that right out of the gate, the biggest obstacle to getting an FHA loan as an investor is you have to own or occupy it. Now, I work with a lot of investors who house hack, and they go from house to house to house. And if you're doing that, you can use FHA, at least on one of those properties, putting the least amount down and actually getting a below conventional interest rate, allowing your monthly payment to give you that biggest room. So an FHA 203K or 203KS, the Streamline, is a phenomenal option. Again, lower interest rates, allows for lower credit scores. It does require you to be an owner-occupant, but it does allow you to roll in all of the renovation fee costs and fees. The second one is the conventional, the Fannie Mae Home Style. A lot of people don't realize that you can be an investor and use the Home Style loan. So with the Home Style loan, you can put as little as 3% down as a first-time home buyer, 5% down as a move-up buyer, 10% down as a second home or vacation home. and as little as 15% down on a single family investment. You can also use it on multi-units. The home style is really cool because it doesn't have that lifetime mortgage insurance that the FHA loan does if you're doing it as a primary or second home. But it gives you a ton of flexibility if you're an investor, because typically a renovation loan is only about 0.25% higher than a traditional purchase loan as an investment, second home, or primary. So that gives you a ton of opportunity to get the lowest rate possible. So definitely take a look into the Fannie Mae home style loan. And then also, quick note on both of those, the home style and the FHA, neither one of them require you to use a GC off the list. Not even FHA anymore, and a lot of people don't know that. But you do need a licensed GC for the area specifically that house is in. And then the last one is a fix and flip loan. So we have several fix and flip options, and they're pretty dang sexy. I mean, you can buy an investment as a fix and flip with as little as 15% down, and it will fund and pay for all of the renovation costs. In addition, it does get limited to 70% of the after repair value, but I would think if you're putting 15% down on your purchase price, you've got more than enough cushion to maximize that 70%. And the cool thing is you've got a lot of wiggle room on what you can qualify for in purchase price and loan amount. The interest rates on that are a little bit higher, where today's interest rate might be sitting at around 6.25% for a primary home versus 7 to 7.25% for an investment. On these guys, you're probably looking at closer to 10%. All right. Well, that's a ton of information, and I know that you probably got more questions, and there's more that I could share. If you have any questions at all for me, let Amy and Karen know. They know how to get in touch with me, and I'll look forward to supporting you and talking to you soon.
Okay, that's financing. Okay, so I'm gonna, so that was Nicole Ruth, amazing lender, investor herself. We also have connections with a company called Pine Financial, and they are a just hard money. They do only hard money loans. They have a really cool fix and flip calculator, and we're gonna actually walk through that with our example today. But if you want to walk through or load that on your phone, that is it. Okay, so what you can talk. Let me start that over again. So this is what you get. The first thing to do on it is first to set your settings. So you can see, you can adjust what you think your home purchase costs are gonna be, what you think the home sale estimated closing costs are gonna be, what it's gonna take to sell your property, what your interest rate is on the hard money. So we'll just put 10 since she said that. And then how long you think it's gonna take you to complete your flip. So we'll just put 6 months, 10% interest rate. We'll do selling cost at 7, and we'll do purchase cost at 2.5. Let's just do that. So after you've filled in the settings, you go to the quick calc. It's so easy here. So we're gonna say, because you know we don't want to pay full asking price, we're gonna offer 600 on this one. If you summed up all those repairs that we had on the low end, it was 115. And we talked about the after rehab or after repair value to be 850 based on the comps we looked at. And literally all you do is you hit calculate. It tells you you're gonna have a net profit up here of 28,000, which is a return of 17%, and you're gonna need cash to close of 140. If you go over to this report, you can see all the breakdown of those numbers. So it's really easy to use, and you can see the numbers that you would pay. Really, you've got to have that that cash up front to get this number. But what happens, so say that it actually, you got in there and it actually costs 185,000. Now you've got a net profit of negative 40,000, right? So this is why I haven't done a flip yet, and why I'm doing this
Love
class
this.
to help you guys understand and learn. The number one thing is having a good contractor, a good GC, or
Good
people
team.
that you know, because that can help you from before you buy it to after you buy it to be successful. For the real estate agent to know the market, where the market's headed, right?
I would
Because-
say equally as important as a real estate agent.
yeah, because this, you know, this, if that number's wrong, so say I'm completely wrong because I didn't use a good agent, and it actually was only worth 800, and you can say we have let's say it was the 115. You're still at a loss, right? So that's, you know, those are the key things when you're talking about flip. They're very, 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 very risky, but you could also make a lot of money on them too. So what if the market shifted like it has in the past, and suddenly this is worth 950, which is very possible. Like the one that was on the comps that was 910. That was because I looked at that with the client. It was a super tight market there. There wasn't very many options in Green Mountain. And I mean, it was first day. They actually, before they even went on market for that house, they still let us look at it the first day. It already had an offer for over 900,000, and the asking price was like 850. So you can also make a lot of money, right? There's higher risk. Also could be higher reward or higher loss, right? Just like any other investment.
What kind of, like, I don't know, margins of safety
Yeah.
are you trying to build in when you're both on the repairs and on the, you know, after rehab value? Do you have any like
Rules of thumb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in the declining market, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
6 months back, the values were different. Now we're getting, like, especially the higher price points going down. So how do you?
Yeah, because housing prices are going back to where they should be approximately, as opposed to where they were outrageously. But I would say when you're looking at, you want to first know, you know, when you calculate that with Amy, what your percentage would be. Like, what are you looking for a return? Like, you got to think of also.
You tell me.
If you have, well, if you have 3 kids,
Mhm.
you know, maybe 15% is not worth the brain, you know, power
Time and
of
money,
trying to
right.
run, especially if you're going to general contract it.
Mhm.
You gotta, as a general contractor, you now have to get all the people to inspect it. You have to be there while they're inspecting it.
Mhm.
You have to sign off. You know, so there's a lot more work. So that's where hiring a general contractor can take a lot of headache out of it.
Right.
So, but of course, then
Then you got
you're
30
not
grand
looking
on
at
top.
15 anymore. Now you want maybe 20 or 30%. You know, I know a guy that only does 30. If he can't get 30% on his, you know, return on his investment,
You won't
flipping
do it.
house, he won't even touch it. He won't even look at it.
Yeah.
So that's one side of it. But then also with what she said, if you're like, okay, I've done my calculations, I've done a pretty good job, I think it's going to be 125,000. I would let's figure for 150,000.
Mhm.
You know,
Always.
you want to figure minimum 10% more of whatever you're thinking,
Mhm.
probably more along the lines of 20%. That way, if it does get out, you do get out easy,
You gotta bump.
then you're like, that's just more cash in your pocket.
Yeah. And the other thing I would say is, and I would give you a range, like we're gonna say, let's run the numbers if it only hits this number from a resale value, and if it gets this. And then also, I would see, what if I can't sell it and I have to rent it? Like, do those numbers look okay? So that would be the next thing. Now, obviously.
So that would be the safe way to get into the market of fixing and flipping, you think? Like,
That's what
if I'm using those numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to try to fix and flip to start. I just think for me, I'm not risky enough. I'm going to do a fix and hold
Mhm.
because I'm more comfortable in that. And then if I need to resell it down the road, I can look at it again, right? I can do those updates because you're not doing all the updates at first if you're just going to rent it.
Mhm.
But I think looking at a bigger picture, like what are all my options I can do? What's my plan B for this property? And making sure you have something that looks okay and not as scary especially for your first one.
Mhm.
And what's most important for you, right? You know, cash flow or that lump sum that you can put in, you know.
Something else.
Okay, so let's get into just looking at, quickly we'll run through if you did have it as a rental. So I use Rent-A-Meter. The property managers that are coming next week, I usually have them come on site as well to give a very clear understanding of what the rent is going to be, because they're boots on the ground. They have a more expensive tool than this one that gives better numbers. But we would figure out what your rent's going to be. And looking at this one, I mean, you can see that there's actually some good, there's some pretty high numbers for similar homes in the area. So that's good.
Is this a free tool or?
No, Rent-A-Meter, you can do like 3 a year or something for free, but you have to pay for it if you.
There's always a stopping point.
It's great, but if you work with Karen and I, we obviously can run unlimited numbers for you on these.
Cool.
And then we are going to get into, this is our rental property analysis tool, one of them. We also have a commercial one. Britt and I have one that if you want to get into very bigger dollars and more metrics, we have that as well when you're getting into the multifamily and how you value multifamily. So I've plugged in kind of what numbers on this first tab, and this is a tool we give to you. We teach you how to use it. It's free, you can have it. We think it's very important if you're going to be an investor that you consider it a business and you understand all this before you get into it. It's a business. If you jump into something, another small business, without doing all your prep, you're probably going to lose money, right? You don't want to just take a realtor's advice. If they're telling you this is a great investment without teaching you this, then I would, it's probably not. They're probably just trying to get the transaction done. You need to learn this stuff. So I know it looks scary, but if we'll train you through it. Not today, that was last month's class. But what I'm looking at is, okay, how does this look? If I do those investments, so I've incorporated the cost of the expenses in here of doing those updates that we talked about on that other page, and I've included also the cost of interest as well. It's got all the different financing costs in here as well. So this is what it looks like. So if you make those updates, I think that at a purchase price of $610, that it actually would be cash flow positive. So this is a section, if you're not a numbers person, this is the CAPP I talked about earlier. It is going to be cash flow positive, and you're also going to have the opportunity for these other things. And this number does not include the appreciation from the actual updates that you do make. So there could be a little bit there. Not much, because your tenants may ruin those updates right after you make them. But to your question, it's Shaw, right? Let's say that, we met before. We build in repairs and maintenance here.
Is that like annually or?
This is based on, yes, this is annual on this. So you can put whatever you want. If you've got a lot of outdated, I put it at 5 because we're kind of fixing some of the big items.
Should be good
but
for a while.
if you want to plan to do the roof soon or whatever, if all your appliances are super old, you can put higher percentage here and see how that affects your numbers.
Are you allowed to use home warranties as a investor or renter?
I would never do home warranty on an investment property unless you want to put. So your tenant's happiness is important on your return. Your tenant is unhappy and can major damage to your home. A home warranty, if you guys who don't know, is you pay $500, and if something breaks, you pay a $50 or $100 fee, and they'll put it in new. But just like a warranty on your computer, they do not want to pay it. So they're going to do everything to not pay it, and they do not want to fix it quickly. So your
That's
water
the one
heater goes
part.
out, you're gonna wait 3 weeks to get your water heater. You cannot do that with a tenant. You'll have to pay a hotel for your tenant for 3 weeks, and it will not be worth your time. So home warranty, no for rentals.
So how do you, that's an interesting perspective, but having said that, like if boiler or something breaks up, right, HVAC, whatever, that's like $10K straight up from your pocket, right? Versus with warranty, it's like $500, right? So how do you like
How do you build
account
in?
for it? Yeah.
You're on your own if the boiler goes out and you don't
Is
want
it
to be
that's
there.
it.
$10K in the rent? The
So
rent's
that's
gonna be
in
so
my
high.
numbers here, right? Like that should be put in. And if your numbers don't show cash flow positive with you planning for that boiler to go out, then you shouldn't buy the property.
It's very tough with 6% interest rate in this market.
Yeah, so that's the thing you gotta consider, and if the numbers don't make sense, the numbers don't make sense, right? But if you're looking at a home that's, the boiler's just been replaced, maybe you can go to the lower end of your repairs and maintenance percentage. And then if you don't spend that, guess what? That 5% is extra money in your pocket that month, right? Or that year. So yes, it does over time, but a lot of the things you just gotta consider on any, like, I'm in a situation on a property right now where the birds ate, between not having gutter repair done in time and the birds, I've got siding that's been destroyed. And I'm like, does the tenant really care about the siding? This is a big expense, right? What do I do? What's the value to the tenant on this? Well, it's so bad, it actually, I think, is gonna affect my rental numbers for future. And so I'm gonna repair that, paint it, update it. But every big item like that you plan for, you should be always analyzing your rental properties every year and saying, what is my maintenance that I've got over the next 5, 10? If you've ever been part of an HOA, like a condo or whatever, they do that too, right? Because they're taking all your money in HOA, and then they're gonna have to pay it out, right? Same thing. You gotta similar kind of think of that. Like, you gotta put money away because I know I'm gonna have expenses later. But that should be in your model, and it should make sense to buy that property with those expenses, knowing they will happen. Now, will they happen equally? No. I can tell you that. You're gonna be like, sometimes you're like, you know, you get that. I have property managers for all mine, and when I get that email, I'm like, oh no, what is it now? Right?
You cringe when you see that person's
like,
name.
Like I have one, and but it's a newer property manager, and I have to prove everything they do. And yeah, I cringe every time I see theirs.
Ruh-roh.
But others are just like, hey, FYI, buying a new washer for whatever address. We're at a trust level, so I let them do it. I know that it's part of my numbers I've already planned for.
What do they typically get? You hired them.
If you're doing a property manager, great point. You would put 10% here. If you're just like a single family or just have one property, typically is what you would pay. It is negotiable, and it depends on what they do for you. You can just hire them just to place a tenant, or you can hire them to do everything. So, just to kind of wrap up here, hopefully this helped you understand just some of the things to think about when you're going to do a flip. We've got the tools to support you. We've got the contacts, people to support you if this is something you